My place in Canadian history. On my dad's side, I found our family history all the way back to when my great-grandfather was born in Glaston, Germany, which is southeast of Leipzig, on February 6, 1920. His parents were Emil and Lydia Dietz, who owned a farm. They taught Willie about the farm and hard work. At the age of 17, he went to a university in Heidelberg, and he received a degree as an aviation engineer. Hired by Junkers Airplane Factory as a test pilot, 4 years after him receiving his pilot's license, Willie was forced to take part in World War II in 1940. He flew German fighter and transport planes. Willie did 200 to 250 missions through Russia, France, Africa, the Sahara Desert, Spain, and over the Mediterranean multiple times. Willie even snuck his father out of a prison camp without raising suspicion. When his plane was shot down into enemy territory during the war, he was captured and put to work by making tunnels in snow. There were many men that collapsed from doing the work, the cold weather, and the lack of food or water. But Willie bolted and tunneled into the snow, hiding himself from the Russians, in which later Germans found him. Willie was awarded with Iron Cross First Class for bravery in action and the German Cross in gold for bravery in action. Willie was arrested by Americans and his home was looted of his medals. Later, the American commander came to talk with him for over an hour. Willie told him how much he hated war and just wanted to go home. The American commander gave Willie a pass that said he was no longer an airman or soldier, and that he was able to move about freely. After the war, Willie had resumed his life. In 1948, Willie met Johanna, who was my great-grandmother. He found work in the police force for 5 years as a consequence of the division of Germany. Willie and Hannah found themselves under the control of Russia of East Germany. One night when the opportunity came to cross the Iron Curtain, they waded across chest-deep waters until they found neutral land. A year later, they were ecstatic to receive immigration papers for Canada. In August 1951, they came to Frobisher District and stayed with Hannah's cousins, Eric and Edward Biberdorf, until they could assemble arrangements for a place of their own. Willie worked for a while on the railroads. Both Willie and Hannah worked at Kleeman Farm near Hirsch. In 1952, they had a son named Warner, who was my grandfather. And 2 years after that, they had a son named Herbie. In 1953, they bought their first quarter of land in Alameda, and in 1958, they moved to the Alameda district. Willie was a school bus driver for 18 years. Willie had passions for farming, motorcycles, and airplanes. Their son, Warner Willie Dietz, was born in 1952 in Oxbow, Saskatchewan. He grew up on the farm in Alameda. He married Virginia Susan Wilbraham, who is my grandmother, in 1975 in Alameda, and had 2 children, Mark and Amy. Mark was born in 1976 in Estevan, Saskatchewan, and works at Free Flow Oil Industry. Warner took automotive mechanics at SciEst and worked as a mechanic at Co-op Garage. He owned his own business with Bose selling tools and automotive supplies. After that, he worked at Estevan Motors. Warner passed away in 1991 in Mydale, Saskatchewan. Willie passed away in 1999, 8 years after his own son, Warner, who passed. On my mom's side, I discovered our family tree back to 1662 in Bob Miller Ward, Netherlands, and they were farmers and fishermen. They built dikes off the river wall to help catch fish. There is a story that tells of my ancestor, John Otten Van Tool, who got into a fight and killed a man. Because of this murderous act, John, who was a young farmer from a tiny village along the river wall, would be forced to flee to America. In 1663, John Otten Van Tool fled to America with his wife and 2-year-old child aboard the Bonte Co, aka the Spotted Cow. That is how he got to America, and he earned income as a mariner. My bloodline continues to my great-great-great-grandfather Martin, who was born in 1847 in Pennsylvania, and moved to Boone County, Indiana, where he purchased land for $40. They had 5 children. One of the 5 was Elmer Douglas, who was my great-great-grandfather. He was born in 1882 in Indiana. Martin died of the measles in 1889, leaving Elmer fatherless at the age of 7. Elmer was taught how to blacksmith and farm by his uncles. He married Olive Wren Comstock in 1910 and moved to Ogama, Saskatchewan in 1916. They had 8 children: Laura, Nora, Lloyd, Edna, Celia, Elmer, Olive, and Della, aka Gail. Out of the 2 boys, Elmer, who was my great-grandfather, was the only one to get married. He continued the blacksmith trade and married Frida Elizabeth Nelson in 1948, and they had 3 girls, Gloria, Eva, and Sally, and the Van Thiel name came to an end. Their firstborn, Gloria, who is my grandmother, was born in 1949 in Bangor, Saskatchewan. She married John David Bayless in 1968 and had 4 children: Melody, Misty, Joel, and Amanda. Misty, who is my mother, was born in 1977 in Estevan, Saskatchewan. She married Mark Andrew Dietz in 1996 and had 2 children, Danika and Davis. I was born in 2000 in Estevan, Saskatchewan, and my brother was born in 2003 in Estevan, Saskatchewan. I am both ecstatic and proud to show you my place in Canadian history. Thank you for listening.